All right, so module 9, migration and innovation, is really about these particular pieces. Let's talk about things like the cloud adoption framework, the kind of 6 key like ways of doing a cloud, like key factors in a migration. We can talk about some data migration solutions, including the data migration service, the server migration service, and then the 5 pillars, because actually there's 6 pillars now because one just got added recently. Sustainability just got added, but there's 5 core pillars of the well-architected framework. There used to be 4, so they added operational excellence, and now they've added sustainability. Okay. First things first, let's talk about the cloud adoption framework. The cloud adoption framework basically provides guidance for how your organization can change through the cloud adoption process. So it organizes like the ways of thinking about this into 6 key areas. The 6 areas are business, people, and governance, and then platform, security, and operations. So with business, the goal is to make sure that IT aligns with the business needs and that the IT investments are going to be linked out to business results. This is where your business managers, your finance managers, your budget owners, and your strategists all live. And then it's like, well, how do you support the change in the human skills and perspectives needed to support cloud adoption? This is where your learning and development teams are, human resources, staffing, people who are managing people, right? And then we've got governance, and the goal here is like how do we get our processes to align with the IT strategy? This is where you've got the CIO and the program managers and enterprise architects kind of making sure that our business processes are aligned up. And then we got the platform. So this is like new solutions, new patterns, CI/CD pipelines, other delivery platforms that deliver in the cloud. This is where the CTO is going to live, as well as IT managers and solutions architects. And then we got security, which is self-explanatory. And then operations, which is also somewhat self-explanatory, right? This is where the people who run and maintain are going to live, and this is where the people who secure are going to live. So these perspectives, by the way, are part of the cloud adoption framework, and they speak to the things you have to consider when you go through some kind of adoption. Now, oh, this is a good challenge, right? Which cloud adoption framework perspective helps customers design and implement their AWS solutions based on their business goals and perspectives? So like, how do we build AWS based on business goals? Which is, by the way, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not the business perspective. Business perspective is about broad strategic alignment. How do we build AWS so that it aligns with business goals and perspectives? So B, C, or D? So in this kind of adoption, just remember that AWS, much like any cloud provider, is just a platform, right? It's just a delivery platform for either IaaS, SaaS, or PaaS. That's it. So making sure that platform is delivering value back to the business, that's going to be a platform perspective, not a business perspective. Certainly not a people perspective. It's going to be a platform perspective. Okay, so outside of the CAF, the cloud adoption framework, there's other things to think about. Is that when you want to migrate into the cloud, Amazon will test you to see if you know the 6 general ways that this can be done. In other words, you can rehost, right? Rehost, by the way, is also known as lifting and shifting. So lifting and shifting means that, oh, hold on. Lifting and shifting also means that you're going to move the application. You're not going to make any changes to it. You're literally just going to copy it, put it up on the cloud. No changes. Not a good idea, by the way, if you want to realize any value with cloud. Then there's replatform, which is also known as lift change a little bit, and then shift, or lift, tinker, and shift, I think is what they call it. This is where you're going to make a few cloud optimizations to make it work. Like you might add auto scaling, or you might do a multi-AZ database, right? And then there's refactoring, re-architecting, which is the most severe. This is the one where you're just going to redo the whole architecture and really optimize it for cloud. This one has the biggest investment, longest lead time, and potentially the most benefits. And then repurchasing is where you're like, hey, we're running MS SQL server here with our license. We're going to drop that and then run it up in cloud. So you're going to repurchase the license up there. And the final two strategies, retain and retire, by the way, do not move anything to the cloud. Retain says we're just going to keep it till it dies. It's going to be posted at a later time. And retire says, well, it's dead, so we're going to retire it. We're going to drop it. We're not going to recreate the service. It's time for it to go. So just to be clear, rehost is just lift and shift. Replatform is lift, tinker, and shift. Refactor is like mess with it, redesign the whole thing, and then re-implement it. So that's a huge change. Repurchase is going from an old service vendor, like a traditional license, to a SaaS model. And then retain and retire are not migration strategies. They're just retirement strategies. Okay, so which of the migration strategies that I just talked about involves moving from a traditional license on premise to a software as a service model in the cloud? Good. Well, good. Repurchasing. That's right. Okay, yeah, so not refactoring, which is going to rewrite it, not retiring, which is not going to migrate at all, and replatforming, right? Which is, wait, yeah, replatforming is a lift, tinker, and shift. There's another one they sometimes use. Can't remember the name of it now. It's like retransition or something like that. I don't remember that one. All right. Couple more things to talk about. One, just know that Amazon has a bunch of hardware devices that are not outposts that you can run inside your data center if you want to do data transfer, or if you want compute at the edge. So you get a small rugged device that will like have secure edge and data, transfer. You can get a bigger device, which is the Snowball devices, which can do up to 80 terabytes of data transfer per device. And then since 2016, December 2016, they've had Snowmobile, which means they drive a truck that can actually handle 100 petabytes of usable storage, and they hook it up to your data center and pull a bunch of data out. I know. I've never even heard of anybody using the truck. I know somebody has, right? Just know the Snowball Edge device has like, I want to say like 52 CPUs and 208 gigs of memory. It has like a NVIDIA Tesla GPU in it. So don't be fooled. The Snowball Edge device has both a storage optimized and a compute optimized version. The Snow Cone is just a tiny little 2 CPU, 4 gig of memory box with 8 terabytes of memory. So that's just a tiny little device. But just know they go from small to really large. But the Snow Cone is really not a data transfer system. It's more of an IoT aggregator system. So I'm not sure why it's included here, because it's actually kind of a different thing. But the Snowball devices and the Snowmobile are actually used for data transfer. Now, AWS wants you to know that, they are driving towards innovation paths, and this is where they believe the future is going to be. I think in general, honestly, everybody agrees with this, right? Tell me if you disagree, or, whatever you want to say. Just know that everyone's driving to how do we get better and quicker insights off of our data, and how do we do so in an automated manner, and how do we get away from running operating systems and infrastructure. If code is king, if all we need is the ability to run these applications, and of course, I know there's security compliances, and I know there's other things that will limit people from doing serverless, But in the public sector, just know that this is where it's all headed. People don't want to have to deal with the infrastructure anymore. It's fun. It's a great hobby, but people just want to run their code and they want to get away from all this. What do you think? Is this silly? Is this where you think things are headed, or what's missing here? Chris, I would agree with that. I can't tell you how many of my friends finally got an Oculus Rift like headset, right? And they were floored at the amount of content that's out there. And I was like, it's been out there for a while, actually. But that's an interface, right? That's an interface change, which I think is actually significant. But until we get contacts and then some kind of haptic immersive response that hooks in directly to the nervous system, which that's going to be weird in and of itself, VR, this is just a stepping stone. But I agree. I think VR is the other thing. What else? Like, for example, 5 years from now, without kind of giving anything away, you're going to take this class and instead you're going to have a VR headset shipped to your house, or we're going to use your existing one. And you and I are all going to meet into a virtual world. And I'm going to be demonstrating AWS in a very more interactive way where we're going to be moving things around. You're going to point to questions to answer them. We're going to be walking around, maybe even playing some games quick, pick the, before this bomb goes off, pick the right flavor of EC2 instance, which, that sounds kind of violent, but, something along those lines. That's where we're going to be doing 5 years from now. This kind of stuff is already in the works where, everything's going to be far more kind of VR driven. And it has, like I said, the haptic headsets and all that get better. It's going to be far more immersive. As it stands right now, we could be doing this whole thing in Minecraft or Roblox if we wanted. What about the artificial intelligence and machine learning pieces? Oh, just so you know, Terry, the FAA has 15 companies that are trying to move past testing mode into implementation for flying cars. So any day now. Actually, it's not supposed to happen, I think, until 2023, but close, right? Yeah, me too. Anyway, I think these are probably safe bets, honestly. I think if you throw virtual reality in there and advances in transportation, such as driverless cars and or flying drones, I don't think we're actually going to have flying cars. I think we're going to have drones that are actually going to ferry us around places, combined with driverless cars. I think that's what's going to happen. But I think this is where, and by the way, there's already a huge number of driverless trucks already on the road, particularly in Europe, but not so much in the United States. So yeah, I think these are good innovation paths. How much of this affects Amazon? Well, I don't think the driverless things do. The drone stuff probably will, but we'll see. Okay, so one of the last things to talk about when it comes to innovation, if you don't know, Amazon does have a well-architected framework. These are filtering functions. These are questions that you want to ask in order to understand whether or not your workload is actually approaching cloud optimized or isn't. By the way, I did mention there was a new pillar. It's called sustainability, but security, reliability, performance optimization, performance efficiency and cost optimization were the 4 cores, and then they added operational excellence, and now they've added sustainability to the equation. So operational excellence talks about things like infrastructure as code, repeatability, automating, anticipating failure, learning from failure, that kind of thing. Security talks about, defense in depth at all layers, shift left, protect data at all times, zero trust networks, that kind of thing. Reliability talks about how to recover from disruptions. Do you have a plan for that? How to dynamically keep capacity ahead of demand. Mitigate things such as internet weather and misconfiguration issues. And then how to experiment to increase efficiency, use the latest resources, how to go global, right, without having to be stuck in that's the way we've always done it kind of mentalities. And this cost optimization means being super aggressive about attending to and optimizing how you use AWS, using managed services to reduce TCO, accounting for soft costs and not just hard costs. And then notice at some point they're going to have sustainability here, and that's going to talk about like what's the impact on the ecosystem. Are we contributing to basically the destruction of the earth? And again, depending on what you believe. So I'm not here to tout some particular agenda. But they did add sustainability in to like assess like what's the environmental impact, right? Okay. Here's the knowledge check. Which AWS cloud adoption framework perspective helps you structure the selection and implementation of permissions? This is kind of a beach ball, actually, as far as like being able to hit this. Which one of these is the perfect for the selection and implementation of permissions? Yeah, good. Just want to make sure. I want to make sure it wasn't just me, right? Security. Yeah, good. I mean, governance is going to help you identify best practices for governance. Operations is going to focus on operating and recovering workloads, and then business is going to be, intertwining IT and business strategies. That's what the business perspective is on. So security is the one that's going to govern, obviously, permissions. Okay. Which of the two out of these choices actually belong, that are part of the original 6 that we looked at? One of these, by the way, doesn't actually change your migration, and another of these is actually a lift and shift. So which two? Which two belong to the previous 6 that we looked at in that slide? I like revisiting. I feel like revisiting should be one, but it's not, right? Remembering, I think definitely, at least writing it down, but remembering probably should be one. And redeveloping actually does sound like one, so, but it's not, right? So B and E is definitely the right answer. Okay, I made fun of this, but I said it. What is the storage capacity of that giant truck that they can drive up to your data center? Yeah, it's 100 petabytes. By the way, I don't think that's usable. So like if it says like, for example, it's an 80 terabyte, 80 terabyte, not snowmobile, snowball, then it's going to be like 72, 73 terabytes usable. I want to say that this is, I don't know. I want to say it's like 89 usable or something like that, but yeah. All right. Oh man, I just kind of gave this away. What's the storage capacity of the Snowball Edge optimized, storage optimized option? Who's paying attention? Woohoo. Because I just said it. No, that's the one that's, yeah, it's 80 terabytes advertised, but it's actually like 73 terabytes usable. So yeah. Okay, so which of the well-architected framework pillars includes the ability to recover from infrastructure or service disruptions in order to create consistency? What is that called when something is consistent? It's also, which of these? So this is reliable, right? If it's consistent, it's typically considered to be reliable as well. So reliability is the pillar here that applies to this, to the ability to recover from infrastructure challenges. Okay. That was again a lot of information, but we talked about the 6 perspectives. So the business perspective, people, governance, platform, security, and operations. That was the cloud adoption framework, CAF. We talked about the 6 strategies for migration, which was rehosting, replatforming. Hold on a second. We're right there. Refactoring, re-architecting, retaining, retiring, and repurchasing. We talked about the Snow family, which includes the 8 terabyte snow cone, the 80 terabyte snowball if it's storage optimized, and then the 100 petabyte snowmobile. We talked about how they, consider the bets to be, serverless, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Again, I think interface wise, I would throw in changes in transportation, drones and whatnot, as well as virtual reality, which is thrown out there as well, which I thought that was a great contribution. And then the 5, soon to be 6 pillars of the well-architected framework: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization. Sorry, my brain stopped working. So that's the official end of the material, except for the official AWS like certification material. So they want us to talk about the Cloud Practitioner exam for those who are interested. So what I'd like to do actually is let's just take a short break. And when you come back, let's talk about the Cloud Practitioner exam. Let's talk about the supplemental labs. Let's talk about the practice exam. I'm going to give you like just a really clear guide for the exact things that you want to do to know whether or not you're ready to take the exam, because it's actually a great exam to take. It's a trivia exam, totally worth doing. So right now it's 4:04. Let's come back in 11 minutes. So come back at 4:15. I'll wrap it up, get you settled. You can do the evaluation. And if you have any questions at all, I'll be glad to hang out and answer them. You just have to let me know, okay? But meanwhile, let's take a break. So come back in 11 minutes.